Hey there. So, after 5 days, it is now Monday. I am finally rested from the psychotic adventures that were BookExpo and BookCon 2018, and I'm going to do a haul report. During the haul report, I'm also going to pull up some photos as I go along, and there won't really be a rhyme or reason. There was a schedule, but I'm not going to do a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday. Just books that I got. I'm going to break them down. They're in piles here behind me. We've got comics, fiction, nonfiction, cookbooks. So I got that breakdown. There's also a pile of swag, including swag like this mask. It says Renegades. It's from a book coming soon from Marissa Meyer. Don't know much about the book, but I wanted the mask because I thought it looked cute. And this is a book promotion from Doubleday. It's not for any specific book. It's just a promote the division of Doubleday from Penguin Random House, Books Before Bros, and there was a giving out of that, and I didn't want to pass out all that. This is what it looks like from behind, and I am not going to wear this mask for this entire session, as it is just a little tight for my face. It is cool for quick cosplay, or for just going out for a little fun maybe in the night, or just as a cute promotional item to promote the book. So Marissa Meyer, if you're into superheroes and young adult, check that out. Look it up. Look at Marissa Meyer. But for now, that mask is going to come off. And I'm going to go over there. I'm going to flip this hat around. I'm going to sit back. And I'm going to show you some books. So this pile right here behind me, all comic books. So we're going to start from the top. No particular order. This is the Adventure Zone. It's from First Second, coming out in October 2017. Based on the very popular podcast of the same name. It's got art by Carrie Peach, and Griffin of the podcast co-wrote it, co-adapted it. At the event, they were also giving out this preview copy edition, which has some additional material, which at this time I'm unsure will end up in this final copy. It is not in this arc. Hopefully some of this material, which includes an original adventure and a lot of detailed sheets and some extra art, will end up in the final version, but it's not guaranteed. So that doesn't take away from the finished book itself. It's gorgeous. And there you go. Get better as we go along, I promise. Short and Skinny, Mark Tutuli. Also, October 2018. It's from Little Brown. Just finished this recently. It's a really cute, creative, personal story from the creator of Desmond Puckett and Leo. And it's a really cool follow-up to all those works to get a feel for where Mark came from and how Mark came to be who he is. There is actually a bit of that here. It's this quick summer that Mark discovers who he wants to be one day, and it's not overly dramatic. It's just a cute coming-of-age story. Think of like a two-parter of Wonder Years, with just maybe a little drama, but nothing serious, except for the finals. The aftermath, just like anyone's life. There's some drama, and Mark catches you up on what happened after this story in his life up until where he is now. And we all have drama in our lives. Mark, no different. Me, no different. Book 5, Babysitter's Club. Gail Galligan replacing Rainer Telgemeier. And it's a great follow-up to what she had created. This came out in 2017 from Scholastic, so it's available now. You can go to stores. This was just a great giveaway and a great opportunity to meet the cartoonist and have her sign the books, which she did a little character in signings, and can pass that up for a BookCon experience. It's there's a difference between BookExpo and BookCon. Much more finished books and a lot more about meeting creators that you may not meet elsewhere just because of reasons. I also finished this, Aquacorn Cove. It's coming from Ani in 2018. It is drop dead beautiful. Every page of this is just so stunning. I'm going to find you at least just one image that just really shows the beauty. If you look at that, look how gorgeous that is. Look at this fabulous cover. It's a very basic, simple, painted comic story about a young girl finding a strange animal and then visiting a beach with her family. And it kind of hit my heart. It was very quick, it was very simple, but it's very sweet, and you'd be remiss to miss this out in October. Very small sampler. There was another signing where they were giving one of the more recent Isle of the Book finished books away with this. But this is just a small preview of a graphic novel that's coming out in September. Not totally sold on the artwork myself, like Cat Fajardo, but it could be fun. The sentence is cool. I'm willing to admit that the sentence is cool. You don't think so? You don't agree? I don't care. But isn't that what most of this is all about? It's not about if you care or not. If you didn't care, you wouldn't be reading books. Sean Tan made one of my favorite films ever. This is just a little preview of his next book. It's coming out in September. The Lost and Found was brilliant, really great film, and you know, he's mostly a picture book illustrator. This is just his latest, coming from Scholastic. As I said, it's from Arthur Levine, which is part of Scholastic. September. It's gonna be big old hardcover with a jacket and everything. It's it's both a fictional and a chapter book, but with also amazing images such as a lot of comics were given out too. This happens to be from Boom Studios. It's a new book called Dodge City. It's out now, ready available. Came out in March 2018. They were just trying to show off the boombox. It has a lot of cool, interesting comics in it. Man for the Man came out in May, earlier this year. My copy had gotten lost in the mail, so I'm glad to finally have a copy. It's from Quirk. Came out in May. It's this adorably funny concept about where cats are the humans and humans are the cats. It's really sweet, funny switch around. It was a web comic. This is now, a collected edition graphic novel. There's another one already planned, a second book already planned from Quirk, 2019. So that's a big thing to be aware of. And like I said, already available in stores. So grab this. The full version is in color. It's just in black and white. The entire main book is fully in color. And check it out. Another finished book. We're giving this out just recently came out. Latest Dav Pilkey Dogman book. Dav was just there to sign books. They were giving away either the latest, or earlier. It was all about the chance to meet Dav Pilkey, get him to shake your hand, get a little drawing in your book, and have a personalized, nice, cute Dogman. Didn't want to pass out on that opportunity, so. It's coming from Abrams Comics Arts. I am now currently trying to find you. This does not come out until January. It is a strong history based upon the creation of the show, Showtime with Apollo, and the Apollo Theater, and just how that explaining that Renaissance and that Harlem Renaissance. This the book is in black and white. The finished book will be a 2-color book, so it'll look like this, blue with blue tones to add to that jazz blue age, the whole everything, the funk, the soul to add to that. But it's actually a really, really well drawn book. This arc actually has a lot of unfinished art, which is, I happen to love seeing unfinished art. It's one of my favorite things. It's part of the allure of getting some of these comic book arcs, is getting to see uncompleted pieces. So this is it has a few of those, as you can see there. But it also has plenty of finished art, which is very strong and interesting work. And being of a historical document that that is very researched, very much looking forward to this. Like I said, not available until January 19. Abrams Comics Art, Showtime at the Apollo graphic novel story. Coming out in September from Quirk are these two. They are both originally French comics from earlier 2011. It's the first time they've ever been brought to America, first time translated into English. They are literally choose your own adventure paths. The whole, do you want to go right? Turn to page 85. Do you want to go left? Turn to page 282. Continuing from that and going back and forth through the book till you either get to one of multiple endings, or decide I don't like that ending, and going all the way back and rereading it. And so it allows itself for multiple rereadings, or you could just read it straight through and just be lost. The artwork is good enough for that. It's really clever, cute, and fun art. And Quirk is always looking out for the fun, more interesting things that are out there. So bringing these very intriguing, different kind of French comic books to America, bravo on them. And I look forward to reading these, and so should you. Norway comes out from Image in November, and originally a online comic. I believe this is a redone version, an expansion of the original comic book that Cat and Kit put together, and it's an amazing story, amazing art. It's just this really intriguing fantasy story in a interesting created world. It's like nothing I've actually really read in YA or in fantasy before. It's a really nice, interesting twist with, as the addition of being a great comic book. And Kitten is a very popular artist. So, Image has a top book on their hand here. And it's only book 1. I already want to read book 2, and I'm going to have to wait forever, just like you. Since this doesn't come out till November, so who knows what book 2 could be. But I will definitely be on the lookout for it. Ani Press has this really, well, definitely erotic comic. There's nudity, there's sex, but it's also a relationship story. It's an LGBTQ story. It's a space story. It's really clever. Comes out in September. It's going to have an embossing foil cover and everything, and extra additional stuff that's not in this. Sarah Merck, this is her first ever graphic novel, but she has a long history, a good history of writing before this. She had written for Pitch Media for a while, which I'm not really familiar with, but anyone who's been doing journalism for 5 years regularly, I have to respect. And she also does enough for the Nib, which is a really cool journalism website. I'm not sure if I've seen her work before, but she's a great writer. I've gone through this quickly and really enjoyed it. The highlight really is the Ibro Carrera and Claudia Guerra art, though. And I'm not sure what I can show you here. It's not a porn, but a page that shows you just like the adorableness of the art. It's a real relationship, book, but a lot of space stuff and giving you something a little different. And comics need that. And this is actually not directly from Ani. It's from a division of Ani, which I did not know Ani Press had divisions, but it's a division of Ani called Limerence Press. And I like the idea of divisions in comic books, and the idea of breaking things down so that more things can come through different houses and still get out there to the market. So be on the lookout for that. Keep your eyes in your comic stores and your bookstores for opener. Maybe not for your kids, definitely for you. Something that's definitely for your kids is Hey Kiddo. It is a heart-wrenching, powerful story. Very true story of Jarrett Kruska's, I'm not very good at pronouncing his last name. His first ever personal story. And this is the guy who's given us Platypus Police and The Lunch Lady, and has written a new version of it. The second year of the Jedi Academy from and all that stuff's from Scholastic. This is also from Graphics and from Scholastic, but it's totally different than anything he's done before. It's drawn slightly differently. It's got a much more painterly feel to it than his other work, which was very illustrative. This time, it's a very personal story. It's a heartbreaking, true story. It's his real life story of being raised by his grandparents because his parents couldn't be around, and then getting older and trying to reconnecting with his parents and finding himself and where he could go. comics darling, Kirsten Gudsnick of Hench Girl, which was a big hit at Mocha maybe a couple of years ago. Has a book coming out from Scholastic. It's called Making Friends. It's a, you know, middle grade best friend story, just, you know, telling you, you know, just that lifestyle. Scholastic has a lot of the, you know, Scholastic is all about really, you know, these coming of age, growing up stories. Kirsten's artwork is just so adorable. This is coming out in the end of July, so basically August. It's gonna be full color, so the full color will look a little something like that. This entire book isn't in full color, but that's part of the charm of also getting your hands on these early copies. It looks just as great in black and white. It has amazing pages, which I don't really want to show off, just to, you know, a lot of them are probably preliminary art, just like I had shown you in some other arcs, but I'm not sure with this one. It's hard to tell, but it's absolutely adorable, and it's definitely one to be on the lookout for. Brianna Tumler is really fairly new to comics. This is, I believe, maybe her first book. It's coming out in August 2018 from Roar. It's going to be coming from their Cub House division, although it doesn't seem completely of that young. I'd put it more to young adult than Cub House, but they think of it as middle grade, so ages in and up. It's about a ghost, and a ghost who makes friends with an everyday girl, and artwork is fantastic. That's, in my opinion, everything I picked up. It's because I actually really enjoy it. In terms of comics, art is a big part of things. Art first, then anything else. Trying to find you a page that really exemplifies the art. This is the cover, though. You can see it. It's called Sheets. Yeah, it's a ghost. Ghost or Sheets. But it's a real ghost. It's not just an imaginary ghost. But there is a page here of just breathtaking beauty. It shows off how quality Brianna is as a illustrator. So, I said August 2018. With all French flaps, the final version. It's also being listed as a paranormal. And like I said, Roar Comics, which is, you know, they've put out Saved by the Bell, Punky Brewster, and a bunch of really original stuff in the past, and really a comic book company that's really built itself over the last couple of years to be a really great small alternative that handles things themselves and puts out great books. So, Dead Reckoning is a division, essentially, but also its own separate thing as being an imprint of the Naval Institute Press. But it's its own separate identity. And they're publishing a bunch of amazing, fabulous graphic novels built upon nonfiction war stories, some fictional war stories, a collection of various things, and Their entire line is gorgeous, but I'm just gonna give you off just some of them. They've got this book called Trench Dogs. All these books are all scheduled to come out in September 2018 currently, and like I said, the publishing house is called Dead Reckoning. It's first book, Trench Dogs. It's basically a wordless anthropomorphic World War One story actually, and it's just it's dogs and cats fighting, telling just a wordless story of World War One, and really just giving you a feel of how impactful war truly is. And there's always people all the time, I'm sure, feel like that things like World War One and World War Two, all the stories have been told, but we can go another 100 years, and I'm sure there's going to be always more stories to be told about those turbulent, dangerous times of our world and how much they changed lives, both universally and individually. And this is just another one of those wonderful tales. They'll also be publishing things like this, which is a collection of a book that came out telling World War II stories. That actually came out during World War II. Comic books set up to be action adventures that were actually almost recruitment guides. And they are doing a lot of, they're going back and rescanning a lot of the art, rescanning all the original art from this Fawcett book. Craig Yo, who has done work on books like this before, is overseeing the whole thing. And I'm not really sure if Don will. I'm really looking forward to reading the intro and getting a little bit more information on how the book came to be and who drew it and why it had, I believe it had probably more than one person who ever worked on it. But what they have already here, ready to be seen, is amazing. And I want to see the finished copy because a lot of the stuff, like I said, is not all fully scanned in, not fully as complete as they'd like. So they're scanning in a bunch of the original art and changing up certain things along the way, so that the final version of this is just going to be an amazing, amazing collection. It's going to be a big old hardcover. It's going to be an 8.5 by 11. So it's not going to be this size. It's going to be way bigger. And it's going to be quite an example of history and showing that, like I said, yes, there are stories that have been, that have yet to be told, but even the stories that have been told can be retold, but told in bigger, better, greater ways as technology and things have changed along the way and been able to be retrospective. They also have The Stand coming out, which is about more modern war. Wars that actually took a war that's been taking longer than even World War One or World War Two, possibly combined, because we've been at war forever, it seems. And war may never end at this point. And this is just a great sampling story of that war as it exists currently. And yeah, Blue Delaquante is an amazing cartoonist. She does a lot of different things. This is actually a little bit outside of what I'd say her regular comfort zone is, but her art, her illustration style is so great, and Stan feels like it's something a little bit different. It's two guys who really do know war. They've done their war correspondence. They've done graphic novels. David Axe, Kevin Noodle. They both have their history of telling war stories, and I feel like this probably of three books will probably be the one that like hits the hardest. Uh, Mostly because it's of the most recent, but also because it's the probably most real. I feel, but I mean, as part of this campaign from Dead Reckoning and having this be one of their first 3 or 4 books coming out as a run, and this is just the start. They plan to go further, uh, and the landmine for war stories. And if they really continue on really reaching out and getting really amazing different kinds of creators to tell these stories, we could be on for a great ride from a burgeoning brand new company in Dead Reckoning, really making their launch here in September. Officially, official launch with all the books in stores. September. Dead Reckoning could be the next big thing for both comics fans and war fans and nonfiction fans. So I'm actually really, really big for Dead Reckoning, and probably will have a lot more to be saying about it. Didn't expect to say so much about it just in this vlog because I really just want to show off the books, but this is what it is, and I'm doing what I'm doing. Ocean Renegade. So this is Ocean Renegades. Picked this up off the floor from Abrams. Looked really cute, and it's got octopus and squid. I believe it's definitely like targeted for all ages. So it's by this by Abby Howard. So I'm not personally familiar. The final book will be in full color, but this actually talks about dinosaurs and history. It's the description actually tells it better than I probably ever could. The magic school bus meets Nathan Hale's Hatter's Tales in this non-fiction graphic novel series that explores prehistoric Earth. So it's not really non-fiction, but it's not. It's using a fictional method to tell non-fiction stories to really explore how a lot of our prehistoric animals and how people can, from a scientific viewpoint, how things evolved. Mentioned before the signings. So Wildjar had done Hey Kiddo before that. He had actually done a more recent edition of Jedi Academy. This was book 2 in his Jedi Academy series, which came out in 2017, and there's a third book in his series, which I believe is also coming out soon. Jedi Academy is really cool. It basically takes place, well, during the time of the Jedi Academy. Where the Sith were still out there but hadn't taken over the Empire yet exactly. So essentially in between, in the scope of films taking place in between, somewhere in between Phantom Menace and Return of the Sith, which, a lot of people don't like that film era, but it has created some of the greatest comics and cartoons we have, seen Clone Wars and various other book series that escape my memory of name, but there's been really good stuff. And I mean, some of this stuff may fall into dark times eventually, which would be great, and it'd be great to read. That time period in between is a great time period also. The Faithful Spy from John Hendricks. It's coming out in September. It's another Abrams book. And John Hendricks is an interesting guy. His history from books is really interesting. I was first introduced to John Hendricks from a illustrative, painterly children's book, and that was probably the last children's books he ever did in that style. He had since moved on. He had done a graphic novel before this, and they were very different. He had done things that you wouldn't necessarily see this as being the follow-up. He had done Jesus. He actually done a Jesus book. So this new follow-up, which is a combination graphic novel slash full book, telling the story of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, which is a real story based on a real. There have been various comics in history about the various plots to kill Hitler, and they're always fascinating, and they're always done with good research. But this looks like it's the most intriguing one yet, and it's the most recent, and it's written away for for people like for 10-year-old and anyone beyond to really be able to read it and learn about this time in history, and that there's so much more. Like I was saying, the minefield of war stories, just the minefield of that war, of that time. That history is just, we always want to look to the future, but history is just a minefield for stories, and they can always be fascinating. Always learning things that we thought we knew but didn't. But the information is there. You just have to look for it. And I'm really glad John Hendricks is the kind of writer and artist who can keep branching out and telling different things, going from being children's stories to something like this. And this, like I said, this is coming out. It'll be hardcover, coming out September 2018. Abrams books, the Amulet division. And speaking of Hitler, this is a fictional story. It's based all on rumor and innuendo. There's no necessary truth to this story. That doesn't take away from its genius. These are finished copies of a book that does not come out until June, the end of this month, the end of June 26th, I believe, whatever the last Wednesday of June. It's a beautiful hardcover book from Image Comics, historical fiction. You can see the cover, Son of Hitler, written by Anthony DeCole and Jeff Moore. It's got the great, beautiful Jeff McCosme artwork. If you look at this book, it's just stunning book. Trying not to spoil anything for you. Like I said, June 26th, Image Comics. You really want to get your hands on this. It smells delicious. It's really, it's that final paper ink with that final hardcover. It feels nice. It feels good in your hands. And it shows Hitler getting choked out on the cover. Who doesn't want to see Hitler? Who doesn't want to have anything on their shelf? If you don't want to have books with Hitler getting choked out on their cover, I honestly feel like we probably won't get along as a person. Unless you just adhere to no violence. Then I might understand. But if it's oh, no, Hitler, I don't want to see him choked out because, he's a good guy. Yeah. I probably don't know you. probably not watching this anyway. I really doubt you'd be watching this, but if you are, go support books. Hell, buy this, re-educate yourself, be a cool person. The Three Escapes of Hannah Arendt from the New Yorker's Ken Crimston. Hannah Arendt was an actual, well-known, real person who, had an amazing life. She was friends with a lot of people, and a lot of research and time really went into to create a biography of Hannah Arendt, and Ken really did something really fascinating. Graphic novels are not usually his forte. He's much more of a New Yorker cartoonist and illustrator. But he took all his knowledge and skill and brought it to this book, which is the final book will have color and have slick art and stuff. And it's I don't think I mentioned when it was coming out. It's scheduled for September. It'll be hardcover. It'll be the same size. It'll have two colors. So it'll be mostly black and white, but it'll have splashes of green and maybe splashes of other colors along the way to just to add to the whole feel and gravitas of just the art itself and the story. And this is another, mining history, especially that time of history, and mining people to tell stories that have not been told before and need to be told, and in my favorite format, the graphic novel. Brian Lee O'Malley was at the show with Leslie Hung, and they were promoting Snot Girl, which both Volume 1 and 2 are currently out. I'm sure Volume 3 is on its way. Snot Girl is a great book. These are only $10. And these two volumes are together. It's 20 volumes, collecting 10 issues of a hilariously fun, interesting, and different story from the, world-famous Scott Pilgrim creator and a great artist in Leslie Hung, who really brings Brian's characters to life. And I'm not really sure where Snot Girl is going, but it's so different and it's so fascinating that I really want to just keep reading it and see where it heads. That's from Image, and like I said, it's currently out, though. They were there just to promote it, get it out further to people that were not aware of it. So, Ian Colfer has a new graphic novel coming out from August 2018. It's again with his the collaborator on his previous previous Artemis Fowl graphic novels, Andrew Donkin. I believe it's a whole new artist, though. They have never worked with this cartoonist Giovanni Regano. I am not myself familiar with Giovanni Regano, but this is a very different book. It's it's exploring the current, about immigration, and so it's a fictional story, but a real story at the same time, and using graphic novels to really get, as I was saying, past, but also current. Our current world, our current history needs to be explored and reported on, and getting into the hands of people who may not necessarily know what's going on or not know how to find out what's going on. So doing it through this format, through a writer like Ian Colfer, who has a fan base, that Artemis Fowl fan base, so that that automatically will bring in new readers to, you know, understand the plight of things that we're going through. And this is a really strong, as I say, it's very, you know, it's completely fictional, but is it? The question is it? While this story is fictional, people like the people in this book, their stories are not fictional. They're real, and they're happening now. And this is actually from Source Books. They have a division called Jabberwocky, and I mean, I just love that there's something different, and that Ian Kaufler's, you know, trying something different. And actually, I believe this may actually be the artist on those Artemis Fowl books as well. So it's the whole team coming together to really just, you know, tell an important story that needs to be told. So keep your eyes out for this. August 2018. It'll be hardcover. It'll be paperback, and it's an educational. It's an education that I think everyone needs. So this is a collected edition coming out. This is currently, as I believe, currently actually out. So I'm not really sure why it was being distributed the way it was exactly. There wasn't much information here. Robert Kirkman wasn't at the show. I didn't get a chance to really ask. The back cover says that this is actually coming out in March of 2018. Well, there's a copyright of 2017. So what I believe is that this is the collection. The book is already out. The individual books are out. I would have to do a little bit more research. I could do that for you right now. I'm going to do that. I don't want to talk about something and not sound like an idiot, because I already do. And I don't like sounding like an idiot. So, bear with me. One moment, please, if you don't mind. So I can tell you more about this. Okay, so this will not be coming out. This collected version of this new Robert Kirkman story with Lorenzo De Felici, which is a whole new, you know, it's something totally different from Robert Kirkman. It's a whole new, brilliantly new, you know, look from the creator of The Walking Dead. With amazing artwork. It's a new sci-fi, fantasy, monsters, alternate history kind of craziness that Robert Kirkman is famous for. This is a collected edition of that series, which will not come out until September. So, from Image, also obviously from Skybound, which is Robert Kirkman's, you know, individual imprint that is printed and published by Image. So, keep your eyes on this. If you're not reading the floppies, this collected edition is going to give you a brand new, crazy, wild Robert Kirkman story that I'm sure is going to blow minds. It'll collects, I believe, what will be the first 4 issues of the series that is currently running. Running until so it possibly could be collecting actually the first 6 issues, but issue 4, 5, and 6 of the floppy edition are not even out yet. So if you like floppies, go into your stores, check it out. That already started, or that started out in coming out in March. So actually, issue 3 comes out next week. or you can wait till September for this collected edition. Brendan Fletcher was at the show promoting motocross. I'm not positive when this collected edition of, but this collects issues 1 through 5 of Brendan and Cameron's book, and it was more definitely Image was as much as getting advanced stuff into people's hands, also was about getting books that people were not aware of, because comics is still a burgeoning field in bookstores. Graphic novels are still growing, so certain things may not necessarily be in hand, so they have to be aware for backlisting. And Motocross would be considered a great backlist book, so be on the look for Motocross. Brendan Fletcher is a great writer. Cameron Stewart's one of my favorite artists, and there's so many great graphic novels coming out all the time. It's impossible to stay on top of everything, so I'm just glad to get my hands on anything that I can, especially when it's when the writer and creator is there promoting their book and wanting you to read it and get it into your hands so that you can let people be aware. Motocross seems like something totally crazy and different. It's the same guys who did that Batgirl revamp, just coming together, telling something just way different. It's actually about a racing circuit, so that's pretty exciting. A motorcycle racing circuit. That's a little something different. Okay, so another Image book, but still one a little different. Little one dear to my heart, actually. It's The Red Hook by Dean Hashville. I've known Dean for almost 25 years. Say for maybe 23 of those years, been friends, hung out, done amazing things. So this came out as a fabulous, amazing, really fun webcomic on Webtoon, a Korean service. But Dean had always designed it to be this graphic novel. He had to take the graphic novel that he had built and created and cut it into strips and forms to be able to turn it into what the amazing series that's on Webtoon, including the follow-up War Cry and the current one he's currently now working on, which is the third one. But to finally have this book in hands the way it was built, the way it was always meant to be seen, is amazing. And I just opened up to the intro page and just, all right, my heart sunk. I'm not even joking. Dedicating the book to Seth Kushner, who was dearly departed, gone way too soon. A friend to all of us, friend to many of us, friend of Dean, friend of me, and just having the book actually officially dedicated to him. It was created along, with him. The ideas came to Dean while with Seth. Seth had actually created another book that was almost a companion series, and that's the way it should have always been. So that never came to be, but the Red Hook still came to be, and it is beautiful as anything that Dean has ever done. It's in each page, it gets bigger and it gets better, and Seth, Seth, you can actually feel Seth in these pages. I feel Dean really poured himself into these books, and like I said, June 6th. That's it's Wednesday. This hits stores, and you'd be remiss to not grab this. I don't care if you don't like comics. Grab the Red Hook. You're going to be just amazed by this first volume. Keep your eye on it, then wait for the follow-up, which will come out. It's called War Cry. There will eventually be the collection of that. Hopefully, this will sell so well that the sooner this gets into your hands, the sooner we sell this out, the sooner we can get to the second book. then we'll all just be waiting for that third book. But get your hands on the Red Hook, June 6th. That's this Wednesday. This Wednesday, get in the stores, buy this thing. Charlene Harris was there at the show to help promote various things. She was promoting a new series, a new pro series, but she was also there promoting her Dynamite series, her comic book series with Arbor Dennis Mintry. This book is already out, but not for very long. It's still very recent, and she's famous for creating the books that became the series True Blood, and just glad she was there. I couldn't pass up the opportunity to meet her, get a signed book from her. The comic looks really good. I would check it out. Just wanted to just give it a chance, see what it's like. The art is great, and knowing what she's created before, knowing that her doing comics is a great thing, and I will definitely want to get my hands on volume 2 of this, I'm sure. And it's definitely out already, so just head to your bookstores, ask for it, or head to your comic stores and ask for it. A couple other books that are definitely already out currently, but should definitely still be looked into, either at your local bookstore, your local comic shop, Amazon, wherever else you want to look, is a collected edition of Shirtless Bear Fighter. And Jody Leib and Sebastian Gardner, they created this hilarious book. It's from Image, currently out, so grab it. Same with this, with the fantasy series Scales and Scoundrels, which is very different from Shirtless Bear Fighter, but still Sebastian Gardner, the lad. It really shows off, these are priced very differently. It's $16.99, $9.99, but really shows the gamut of what Image is putting out there. Image does not, the Image doesn't have a focus. They just want to put out good comics, and these are both really great comics. So you should definitely be on the lookout. Here, Image is the same place that put out, that new Robert Kirkman that I mentioned, and put out my friend Dean's book. And so, Image, just like most publishers, but Image just really does care and tries to put interesting and different stuff out there. So, David Small's latest. This is published by Live Right, which is part of W.W. Norton. David Wright did Stitches, and that was a top-notch autobiographical comic. And this originally started out as less autobiographical, but as David Small started writing it more, it became much more secondary, just exploration further into his adolescence, and it developed into a whole thing. It took about, I believe it was, I don't remember, it was 7 or 9 years, but it's something that David's been working on, working on through the years, and it's this truly long, amazingly beautifully illustrated story. It's almost 400 pages, and it just has David's, really qualitative, illustrative style. It's really attractive. You know, just telling the life of a small town in Ohio, with main characters, and just reaching out. It's like a brilliant YA novel, typical YA novel that's taking place in the 1950s, but instead of being a YA novel, it's a gorgeously illustrated graphic novel, a very poetic graphic novel from a very interesting creator. David Small is a very interesting creator because, you know, he does children's books. He's done things for Playboy. He's got an amazing historical career as an illustrator, and that he took his time and energy to pour it into the pages of this, while still doing everything else he did. Um, you know, he's won awards for children's books to adult work, and so definitely would get your hands on this when it comes out in September. Live Right, W.W. Norton, Home After Dark. It's being, you know, something being considered a graphic novel. It's just a novel, and it's gorgeous. This is something a little different from Tuttle Publishing. They do mostly things that are basically like tour guides, specialty tour guides of Japan, to really get just the culture and history of Japan to American readers. This was originally a comic published in France that they acquired and translated, and it caught my eye. It was that they were giving, and it's really gorgeous. It's really brilliant. It's both a tour guide of Japan and also a fictional story about photographing ghosts, but it really does still fit under Tuttle's build of what it's trying to do, you know, culture and teaching Japanese culture to an American society, and it is based on the writer and artist's actual Japanese adventures, and wanting to tell us travel story while also doing something a little different. And it really is really funny and attractive. I'm not positive of when it's scheduled to come out. I know it is not currently out yet, but the information of its publishing date is not on this. It's not out yet, so keep your eyes out. Look for Tuttle. Look up Tuttle Publishing, and look up Anabe Diary of a Yokai Ghost Hunter. Price is right. It's only $13, and get your hands on this if you can. It's really different. It's very different. So actually, this is an image gallery, which I did not know at the time. Coming out in around September. It's from the artist calls himself Kick Lily. That's his pseudonym. Who previously had won the Angela Mee Award for a previously comic that he had done. He's a French artist, but he lives in America as well. And this book is very different, very fun, little wacky, little adult. Okay, a lot of adults. It's a lot of adults, but it's really fun. And Images, it's another example of that Image is branching out and really not trying things. This actually is about a Purdy, who is a crazy wild woman who just got out of jail, and it's a western. It's a western about a crazy woman who just got out of jail from a wild French artist who has a lot of energy. I met the guy. The artist was there signing, giving away these galleys as well, and so an example of just Image and really branching out. And if it's funny, if it's clever, if it's interesting, if it's different, if it's good, it's gonna get published, and it might get published by Image. This is the bridge. It's about the history of the actual Brooklyn Bridge, the story of the Brooklyn. This is currently already available. It's out there in this format. It's amazing that Abrams was willing to give away copies of Peter J. Tomasi, the writer, was at Expo to help promote the book. So that therefore it still, still needs to get to other readers because it's very different. And if you're a comic book reader, the name may be familiar with you. Peter J. Tomasi currently writes Super Sons. He is known for Green Lantern. He's written a lot of top comics. He's written some Batman stuff. He happened to write 2 comic book series that were some of my favorites. One called The Light Brigade, the other called The Mighty. Self-creator. They're not based on any properties, but they were published by DC originally. They're awesome properties. Something a little different, Peter. It's a document of history. It's telling the history of how the Brooklyn Bridge came to be and the family that paid and made sure it happened. Which is an example of history too. Just history as a whole still has so many stories to mine. It doesn't have to be war, just life, just how New York came to be. New York has got such a fascinating history, and there's been plenty of books and movies, but there can always be more. And the bridge is an example of just that. How did the Brooklyn Bridge come to be? Why? And telling it in this format, in that graphic novel format, with great art by Sarah Duvall, who I'm not truly personally really familiar with, but it's because she's actually very recent. This was her first graphic novel ever. She was doing a webcomic before this and a recent graduate. So this was her first ever graphic novel, but as I look at it, it will definitely not be her last. Sarah Duvall is someone that I feel you'll be hearing a lot more from. So this is in stores right now. You can go out to your store, you can go out to your comic store, you can go get it now, and I definitely recommend you do. This also is in stores. It just recently came out within the last couple of months. I've known Abby for quite a long time. This is her second guide to Japan. She had previously done just a cool Japan guide, but this one focuses on Tokyo specifically. It's done in a graphic novel format, trying to just display the information that she received and trying to, just educate, all in trying to, if they go to Japan, to have the best vacation they can without, any pitfalls or missing out on anything they may really want to see. So I would definitely get your hands on this. It's out in stores now. Abby Tenzin, focusing on Tokyo. If you either really want to ever go or plan to go, or even if you never plan to go, you just want to be able to read about it so that you feel like you've gone. I would definitely recommend you getting your hands on this. It's also from Tuttle Publishing, who their goal is to get Japanese culture into American hands. This isn't exactly a comic book, but I'm not sure how else to call it. It is a drawing guide on how to draw chibi from Mark Riley, he's been doing how-to art books for quite a long time. Before this, he had the book Akiko and the Planet Shmu, and also from Dark Horse, he had Riley's Ghost, and 2 very different books. But Mark Riley is a very talented, passionate artist, and just seeing just details how to draw chibi. If ever wanted to just get an idea of how to draw in this style, it's a great guide with great examples of art from him, and also just a good history of the concept of what chibi itself is and why it exists and how it's popular. So it's one of those kind of things. Uh, Another drawing guide. This is from Katie Cook. A little different. It's called Drawing Cute with Katie. And so this is actually, it's a little different. She's really showing you how to draw different things into cute things. I believe both this, the last book is currently available in stores. This just came available as well. But bananas, draw a cute hot dog, draw a cute pizza. The steps, she skips a lot of steps. It's much more a example of awesome Katie Cook artwork than an actual drawing guide. It gives you basic ideas of shapes and concepts, but it's definitely skips a step or two because Katie just happens to just have that hand of just making things cute without even thinking about it. But that doesn't make it not a fun book because Katie's artwork is so adorable. So it's less of a it's less of step by step and more of a collection of awesome Katie's cute artwork. But I would definitely grab your hands on this because it's both. It's in everything in that. Last book is something a little in comic books. Moving on to nonfiction after this. Something a little different. It's illustrated. Currently definitely out. It's from Plow Publishing. We're really focused on spirit and faith, but not proselytizing. Just faith-based and truth. So this is a biography of Martin Luther. It's beautifully painterly. It's very different. I just had the opportunity of choosing one of different books to sample the Library of Plow. This is the one that I chose. They also had a very cool Nelson Mandela biography. Also has a graphic novel. So to show you that they are not, a completely, religion based. They do have a lot of religion based books, but they're also just about focusing on interesting stories and telling truth of history based in faith and belief. This originally came out in 2017. It's really gorgeous. You might want to check it out yourself. Plow Publishing. I do recommend it. We'll try to restack the books quick, and we will then you can start at the back of my head for a second. I guess as the original video said, as I re-prepare, I will set up that you get reminded what you are watching. I'll put that up in the corner so you know from now on, period, that is what you're watching. While we're at it, before I finish reorganizing the comics, I'm going to show off a couple of images. Here are some pictures. Here's a picture of me and Dean, the Red Hook, at the convention. And enjoy that for a second. I'd like to reorganize the books quickly before I come back and interact with you all. I will have a lot less to be saying about the nonfiction and fiction that I did about comic books, for sure. As comic books are definitely a first focus for me. I'm going to move some of these over. Get to them quicker without turning around. Okay. So, nonfiction books from Quirk Books coming out in October of this year. Sam Maggs. She wrote the very popular Fangirls Guide to the Galaxy, and the follow-up to that, or more like the prequel to the Girl Squad's Wonder Woman. She is also a writer currently at Anthem Comics. Not Anthem Comics, at BioWare, the video game company for the video game Anthem. She's writing characters for that, and Quirk publishes some of my favorite stuff. Not sure I mentioned that before, but here's a quick photo with Sam. I've known Sam for a couple of years now, going way back to the Fangirls Guide. So it's going back actually almost a year before Fangirls Guide came out. I had first met Sam. She was working on other stuff, just getting her break into the industry for other stuff, and she's go geek out with her, as it says in her bio. Go geek out with Sam on things of all types. It's at Sam Maggs at Twitter. Go geek out with her. She's great. Sam is fabulous, working on video games, and she's writing things like this book, Girl Squads, which literally just talks about friendships between, famous people in history, with really awesome, like, little illustrations, but much more about the writing than anything. The illustrations are there, but it's really about just these groups of women who, came together and really changed the world, and a nice, cool history from someone who really does care about, raising awareness. Like I said, that comes out in October from Quirk Books. PJ O'Rourke is a really funny writer. Covers everything from politics to finances to life and everything. Got a new book that may come out in September. Could come out sooner. Could come out later than that. It's from Atlantic Monthly Press, and really got a chance to really look at it. It's a collection of essays, but it is, I did ask about it. It, like any patriarch work, while it definitely is focused on finance and history and the background behind that, just like me, patriarch work tends to go off in tangents, and they're always usually interesting and funny. And I'm always happy to read more of what he's got to say. This is Fame, Justine Bateman. It's an autobiography, but also an essay on exploring fame. So it's a combination of autobiography and exploring just life. It comes out also out in October. It'll be hardcover. It'll have a full color photo insert. Justin Bateman, of course, is best known from Family Ties, but also ended up on Arrested Development and so many other things. She's been in so many films and she's written so many stuff, and she's got an amazing voice, and she's unrelenting in her truth. So her taking the time to really just sit down and just write about, well, fame, exploring what fame was like for someone like her, especially, and people alongside her before things like Twitter came along. When all the when fans could not, how that changed, fandom and what fandom was like before that, and just what is fame, and does fame mean anything now? Did fame mean anything then? Well, of course, still exploring her life and her development as an actor and a writer and a director. And it is definitely it's broken down much more into a format of various essays than a full-on memoir. But I was really excited to get my hands on this, and I'm really excited to read it, and you should be too. Like I said, Akashic Books, little something different from them, but not, at the same time not. And 2018, October. So on top of Quark putting out the Girl Squads, they're putting out something a little bit different as well. This is actually, I believe, just recently had come out. I will double check the date on this for you, if you give me a moment. Just one quick moment, and I will give you some details on Girls Resist. Actually, while this doesn't look like an arc and more a finished copy, this does not come out until August 7th. And it's better for me to read the back to you than anything. Even though it's not exact, because I don't believe, while it says this is a book for girls, I'm going to go with, this is a book for everyone who has something to say. For everyone who have something to get off their chest. For everyone who are ready to use their voices to slash through injustice. This is a book for everyone who wants to live boldly, who have a red hot fire deep down in their gut, who are smart enough to be mad and bold enough to demand change. This is a book for anyone who has had enough of inequality, who believe in a world where all are treated fairly, who care deeply about their rights and the rights of others. And so that's why it is written with a focus to young women. But it's tips on that. I mean, that while it's tips to the young woman, these tips could help anyone who wants to stand aside young women who believe in the cause as much. So for anyone who, wants to be there, helping out, fathers, mothers, teachers, brothers, friends. I think, anyone could be there helping along. Book also has some really adorable illustrations by Gilda Sagramola. So it's got it's got diagrams and conceptions and really actual, while it's an educational guide on how to really rise and resist. It's also just a really good read. And so August 7th is the current date of release. Cork Books, always putting out the best stuff. Always really well designed, well put together. Always really beautiful stuff. Got this because of the geese. Reading about some geese. This is Papa Goose by Michael Quitling. It comes from Greystone Books. Basically, it's supposed to tell the story about this guy, Michael Quitling. It's his personal memoir about raising young geese. And just the idea alone, just, as a memoir, really seemed fascinating and different and interesting, just to learn this simple story. So I thought I'd give this a chance and check it out. Comes out in September. It's going to be hardcover. If it seems like it's going to be something up your alley, it's literally what it sounds like. It's he took in and helped raise these. It was a research initiative to see, about raising geese and teaching them how to fly. I'm assuming they were probably abandoned or something, or it was just to understand them better. But no matter what it was, I'm interested, and you might be too. Honeybee Hotel was something that caught my eye. Comes out in October. It's from Johns Hopkins Press, Johns Hopkins University Press, and by Leslie Day, who has done various field guides to New York City and really understands New York City itself. So this is more about the history of the actual Honeybee Hotel, which is part of the Waldorf Astoria. And New York history is definitely something up my alley. If you haven't figured that out, I like it in comic books. I like it not in comic books. I just like reading history. This is a combination of there's some recipes from back in the day of the Waldorf Astoria, and it really just talks about just the development and history of one of the most historic buildings in New York. And it's what you would expect from a university press. It comes out in October. So next two books are from two great celebrity samplers. Unfortunately, only samplers, but it's okay because I got to meet them. I got to interact with them. I got to enjoy their company for just a short time and have them sign their fabulous books. So, first up is Abby Jacobson. You may know her from Broad City. That is pretty much where she's best known, is the TV show Broad City. She's been in other things, obviously, but that is her big thing, is being in Broad City. And so this actually is about a road trip she took. And also there was a great panel and talking about how the title means a lot, that she might regret this, that she feels that because of Broad City, people feel they know her because it's a quote-unquote autobiographical show, but it really isn't. That's still not the Abby Jacobson. It's a character named Abby Jacobson, played by Abby Jacobson. So she wanted to write something that, lets you know her, but at the same time, does she really want you to know her? After now you do know her. Now you do actually know her better. And did she really want that? So it's a great memoir talking about the real Abby in her fabulous ways, and meeting her was fabulous. She's really awesome, really wonderful. Um, and I felt just as an addition, I'd share the photo as soon as I can find it specifically to open for you. So there's Abby Jacobson. She's absolutely adorable, as you can see. I'm a little less adorable. Um, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm trying. Uh, but unfortunately, this is only just a sampler of the final book. But it should give me enough. It's definitely broken up into like essays instead of full on memoir, which is really good. So this is actually still going to be, I feel, um, easier easy to read in just even the sampler format, especially the way it's broken down as if it's actually just a part of the book. So it could be just like the first couple of chapters of the book, even. Comes out in October. They're actually like even giving that this sampler, itself is actually a publication itself in a way, because it is a publication of May 2018, and I will probably have to be on the lookout for the full version. We'll see. I'll have to look at this, but you should be aware of it. Abby has put out this great book, and she'll be going on tour, doing Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, um, other different, other reaching, and so be on October 30th. So it's actually more coming out in November than anything. It'll be out in hardcover, so there'll be an audiobook. I'm hoping that audiobook version is something she actually recorded herself. She did. I'm definitely gonna want my hands on that. So be on the lookout for that. And following up that, is Sally Field. This is again just a sampler, selections from her memoir, coming out in September, also hardcover, can be another audiobook. Hopefully, again, if she recorded the audiobook, I will definitely want to listen to it. But, this is Sally Field. Some of my favorite movies, Soap Dish, Punchline, of course, Forrest Gump. But I go to, Soap Dish and Punchline are, heart and soul kind of things for me. So, and I have to tell you, woman's gorgeous. She is 71 years old. She could easily pass for 50. She's a true sweetheart. She's really just a nice woman. And it was worth the chance just to get to meet her, get my hands on this, and just tell her how much I loved her. So, that's that. And it was worth it. Maybe a highlight of the entire book expo, one could say. I put up there as a true highlight, and no problem with telling you that. This is the third book from Damien Eccles. His first was actually a memoir written right after he'd gotten out of prison. And then he wrote a second book with his current wife, detailing how they were able to, create a relationship while he was still in prison and through letters and being in love, and her, patiently waiting, and him patiently, being able to be in love while still in prison, knowing that maybe that one day he would be exonerated, and her believing that one day he would be exonerated. And this is a third book that is exploring how did he internalize a lot of that to knowing he's in jail for life for something that he knows he didn't commit, and that was completely exonerated. There were no, he had no, completely innocent, and steamrolled, and how did he sit through prison, surviving prison, to become the very strong and powerful guy he is now. Very courageous, and had a good conversation with him at the show. And got this got a very cool portrait photo that I'm proud of, that I may turn into something more. You see, he's the tattoos. The magic is really a big part of who he is, and he truly believes in it, and he really invests in the magic and getting it in that, that heart and soul to keeping strong and keeping real as a person. So you're really interested in following some of these instructions. Maybe they'll awaken part of me that's been missing. I mean, he's much stronger than I probably ever would have been. So this, by the way, comes out in October, and it is from the publishers. The name of the publisher is Sounds True. They're an independent publisher. So be on the lookout for that. Like I said, it's Sounds True, October 30th, so more like November. And I'm going to look out. By the way, I don't think I said when the Sally Field book, who the Sally Field book was out from. It's from Grand Central. I did mention the date, September 18th, but you should know that it's from Grand Central Publishing, which is a division of Hachette. Coming in October. He was actually, Chris Geithart had done the panel with Abby Jacobson. So you may know him from his show and from his podcast and his stand-up comedies. And he was in Broad City, obviously. He was in The Office. He was in Parks and Recreation. He's a really good, funny guy. So this is a collection of just thoughts and experiences, also written in an essay format, of just words that he wanted to get out, and he wanted, to tell his stories in this format of a nonfiction essay format. And this also comes out. It's being considered as a self-help motivational book. It's probably more of a comedy book than anything, but it could be both. I mean, Chris is a successful comedian, so he's gone through a lot to get there. So it could be that. It could be literally an inspirational, just, if he could do it, so can I kind of thing. And Harper won. It's Harper Collins, October 2018, hardcover. So, Breaking the Rules, a memoir from Larry Rule, who this is his his rape story, which, those are always hard, those are always hard to hear from, you hear them from women all the time. You don't get to hear them from, men. They happen, but you don't want to hear about it. You want to close your eyes to it, close your eyes to a reality of things that have happened. And Larry chose that his story was not going to be hidden. It was going to be told. It's from Central Recovery Press. It is available now in stores, so you can go and get that right now. And it's going to be a very strong. He's been part of Rain, and he's been part of a group called Male Survivor. But you may know him better from other works. So you may know him from his design work. His design work is very well known. He's very well known. He did that. That was a couple of years ago. He ran a very high popular store. And was a well known designer, working on various art and design. But he moved away from design and styling to focus on work. He still does visual art. It's really intriguing art. Uses like old books and found objects to create new images, and it's really powerful stuff. But this, I feel, is going to be much more powerful of a read. A true story of survival and what he went through to break through and build himself. And Larry's a really great guy. Really, really a pleasure to speak to and know. And I'm really looking forward to reading this book. So, Central Recovery Press in stores now. So go check that out. Go on the lookout for that. Just a grab for me. I grabbed this off the floor just because it sounded really interesting. It's from Abrams. It's a history book basically from Keeper McLeod, who is a professor and knows the history, and so it's just talking about New York and the scene of New York during that time. Where a lot of things were happening. Back in the '60s, early '70s, and so it's just a nice historical document. It could be a great read. It could be maybe too academic for all I know, or it could be really just take me back to things that I know and explore them better. But I just felt it was worthwhile checking out. And if you're into into historical documents, it's good to know of. It comes out in October. It'll be hardcover, and it's like a really insightful look at how the pop underground rised and gave birth to people like Blondie and Andy Warhol and all the gonzo journalism of the time, and how the off Broadway scene emerged, and people like that became icons from being these nobodies to world class, worldwide known famous people. Speaking of history and interesting history, Tim Moore has put out a book on the history of German punk music from the Eastern Bloc. I'm really fascinated to just hear about the history and find out some of the names of these bands and look them up. And he tells me the sound quality on anything that survived is not so great, but I'm still curious to hear about the history, about this entire movement that existed hidden from us behind a wall of all places. And not figuratively, but literally hidden from us behind a wall, a full scene of pure punk music that in defiance of the society they were living in, created what they wanted to create and did let shit stop them. You know, it's before the wall came down. Not long before the wall came down. Before the wall came down, so they were still living in a socialist state, and didn't let it stop them. So I'm really interested. Tim has actually, worked with a lot of other musicians, putting together their biographies, and he's got a good history of proving as a journalist with Playboy and various other places that he has a good grasp of telling these stories. This is coming out in September. It's from Algonquin Books, which is part of the Workman, and it's a very focused history book, telling of a very focused period and of a very focused interest. So I really suggest, like, this could be one of the best reads that of nonfiction from everything I've gotten outside of memoir. So you might want to check this out. Could be up your alley. I know that it obviously is mine, or I wouldn't have bothered picking the book up. So, be on the lookout for that. Burning Down a House, Tim Moore. He likes the rock. He knows the punk, and he knows punk's not dead. I say punk was never alive. Punk was built by zombies. But, that's just how I view it. This is another pickup off the floor from Abrams. I think it tells itself, showing you what it is. So from the Field Museum, China History. It's January. It doesn't officially come out till January next year. It'll be a big old hardcover. Color photos, I'm sure. Just, nice. A good coffee table book, I'd say. For a sampler of Jello Pours These Truths, a collection of essays. Exploring a history of the United States from the noted journalist. Can't even begin to imagine what the full book could be like, but this sampler does skip from the introduction straight to chapter 4, which begins on page 110 of the book, and then again skips to chapter 8, which begins on page 274, and then jumps ahead to chapter 13 on page 524. Then chapter 16 on page 722. And at chapter 16, Jill has now reached in the history of America 9/11. Going all the way up to Donald Trump. So the full book looks like it'll be almost 800 pages, with essays truly exploring America from the start of America to the Constitution, going to war, to rebuilding as a nation, to 9/11, and all the way to Trump. And I mean, Jill Lepore is a true, she's a marvelous, amazing woman. She teaches American history at Harvard University, and on top of this book, she even also wrote a book on the secret history of Wonder Woman, which I believe was probably the influence for the amazing book based on it. So, explaining who WWO Marston really was, though, that it was 3 people, not one. And she also wrote the Book of Ages, which is another historical book. This is going to be an insane book, coming from W.W. Norton. It's scheduled for coming out in September. It is going to be a big old hardcover. They're listing it as 960 pages. I guess that's with the introduction and the contents and everything, with 127 illustrated pages throughout, photos and history. This could be the nonfiction book of not just the year, but the decade. Might not want to miss out on this. It's a collection of transcripts of interviews that John Cleese did as a professor when he was at Cornell itself. He's actually been a professor at Cornell for quite a long time. It's just a collection of courses, lectures and speakings that he did. It's coming out in October or September. It seems Cornell University Press could be a really good. It's John Cleese, one of the most intelligent men, one of the funniest, and just being able to be in his class without ever having to take his class could be quite the experience. So This Land from Dan Barry, coming out in September. It's a collection from his very popular New York Times series called This Land, which he started writing right after Katrina, and deciding to explore America deeper in a new way. So this is a collection of of the best of this land. For all I know, it collects almost all of this land, but I'm sure it can't because that was a weekly or maybe even a daily. But Dan Barry, one of the greatest writers I've ever had. The man had a sitcom based on his life. On top of, writing other books. So, yeah. That comes out September, like I said. It's from Black Dog and Leventhal. So it's a little different in terms of publisher. Just keep your eyes on that. Sal Roker's newest. This just came out just recently from William Arrow, which is part of HarperCollins. Exploring the Johnstone Flood. Al was there at the show basically to promote the book. If you don't have your hands on it yet, you might want to go check it out. It's in stores now. It's his second weather historical novel. It smells like a nice new book, as new books always do. And Alrica was very affable and a pleasure to meet for a short moment to promote the book. So go check it out, Ruthless Tide. It's in stores now. Okay, this is another book, Paperweight Crush, by Gabriel Moss. She worked at Bustle for a long time. GQ. She knows her stuff. And this is almost like a companion book to Paperbacks from Hell by Hendricks, another Quirk book. That explored 1970s horror novels. This looks at those less serious books of the 1970s, Sweet Valley High, Babysitter's Club, and others in that ilk, exploring covers and the books themselves. It's coming out in October, the end of October. The final book is going to be full color, big old. Everything's going to be in color, detailing these crazy books that you would never believe even existed, like Pen Pals or Making Friends. There are 3 new roommates in Room 107, The Girls of Camboy Hall. Or how about Sex Education? And, even things like simple like the Judy Blume Diary. Because Judy Blume was quite an interesting. Or how about Goodbye Pink Pig by C.S. Adler? Avon Camelot just published a bunch of Apple Paperbacks and Avon Camelot were the 2 big publishers for that. Scholastic did a lot of stuff too, but it's mostly Apple and Avon. And they put out some really weird, silly stuff. Camp stories and preteen stories. Even a book called Preteen Means In Between. So one of the best parts about the signing for this was that Gabrielle was wearing a Sweet Valley High dress. The photo I have for that, neither of us look good in it. I don't really want to show it off. But I did put a cropped version on my Twitter, and you can also check her Twitter. So look that up, Gabriel Moss. And this comes out, like I said, in October 30th. It's from Quirk. Everything Quirk puts out is just always perfect in the way it's designed, in the conceptual idea. It's just, they are truly one of the best publishing companies out there. And I can never not get excited by something they put out. In the press room, I met this woman who works for a science magazine out in New Zealand. She's Russian, but the magazine is published in New Zealand. It's called Olya Youth Science. The cover happens to be AR technology, so if you get an app, you can download it. The woman is Svetlana Sritseva. She runs the business development and gets the book out to people's hands. So I would definitely look it up. As you can see, there's the cover. You can go Google it yourself. OYLA. And it is literally a science magazine for kids, but done in a very interesting and fascinating way that I will want to be checking it out a lot more as days go by. Past BookExpo. Don't Stop Believing had just come out, but it's still in, trying to get into your hands in marketing. It's from Zondervan Press. They are a faith trust a lot of times, but Jonathan Cain is the man who wrote down Don't Stop Believing. He played the keyboard parts for all of Journey, basically. He wrote the song, and this is his spiritual journey in finding God, or God. Not real. So you know, but the road stories are there, and he doesn't hold any punches. He tells the reality of how dark his life had gotten to to where he is now, to being a man of faith. And I don't hold that against anyone. If some people need what they need to stay strong, and as long as it lets them keep performing and creating great music and just being a great guy, I can't hold that against him. And I want to know where he came from and equally where he is going. So yeah, talking to him was excellent, and be on the lookout for that book right now in stores. Don't Stop Believing, Jonathan Cain. I had heard last minute that this was going to be on the floor. I did not know it was going to be a finished copy. So, a memoir from Mike Rice. He wrote so many episodes of The Simpsons that you're probably familiar with. Was a producer on the show for, well, day one. And was the head writer. And this is literally, it goes beyond Simpsons and goes into In a Queer Duck, which is one of the best shows that I ever got to see, even though it's slightly offensive in some ways. It's also very funny and was very accepted and appreciated. And it covers not just The Simpsons, but his career as a whole, of being a comedy writer, being a cartoon creator, and what it was like to also just, work in that Simpsons office. So it's a finished book, just came out now. Go check it out in stores. Springfield Confidential. I am not going to do a reorganizing right now. We will wait on it. So first I'm going to show off two children's books. One was Unplanned. This is I'm Fun Too by Jordan Fensky. It's from a collaboration between Lego and Scholastic. It's exactly what it looks like. It's a Lego children's book. It looks cute. Couldn't resist it. Had to pick it up just to check it out. Second book, I was definitely all about picking it up and checking it out, wanting my hands on it. If you follow me for a while, you may be aware. Me and David Eberstein were college mates. Worked on a play with him. We went to parties. We hung out, drinking. That was almost 20 years ago. He's since become an amazing children's story art author, creator, painter. This is a follow-up to his first Interrupting Chicken, but now it has an elephant. And you may not know this about me, but I love elephants, and this book is absolutely adorable. I'm not sure when this is actually coming out. It's not out just yet. It'll be coming out later in the year. It's still going through proofs and corrections. But it's published by Candlewick Press, so be on the lookout for it. David Eberstein, Interrupting Chicken, and the Elephant Surprise. You do not have to be a child or have children to enjoy his stuff. It's just so well drawn and so funny. And this book, for once, has some of David's more illustrative work than his more painterly stuff. So, yeah, be on the lookout for that. Now we can go on to our fiction. During BookCon, there was a Prince Lestat Day and Anne Rice collection promotion day, mainly to promote Blood Communion, which is coming out in October. It's the next book, and to promote it, they were giving out free copies of the paperback edition of The Vampire Lestat. Now, this is not Interview with the Vampire. This is not The Vampire Lestat. This is Prince Lestat, which I believe would have been book 5. In the series. Or 6, as the case may be, in terms of how the chronicles have been told. This book originally came out in 2014. I may actually have a copy. I'm not even sure. My collection is crazy. I will have to go through my Anne Rice's and see if I had this there. Could be a chance that I missed out on it, which if I did, it's excellent edition. And if you missed out on it, if you lost track that the Vampire Chronicles continued, then go look out for the Prince Lestat, and be aware that Blood Communion comes out in October 2018, brand new Vampire Chronicles. They're just continuing more of the Prince Lestat. So, in fiction, first 2 books we have coming up are both from Quirk. Quirk does comics, Quirk does fiction. They do, pop culture. They're all over the map. So, but it's all always really well designed with amazing covers and good smells, and they're just, they make Philly look good. So this is the 3rd fictional novel from Grady Hendrix. First gave us Horror Store, My Best Friend's Exorcism. This is his 3rd fabulous book. This one seems to be a rock and roll, heavy metal adventure with the devil and everything. It's called We Sold Our Souls. As you can see, comes out in September 2018. This gorgeous design, I believe, was actually by recently rehired Ziggy Horner, who just came back as the book designer and the art director at Quirk. So he's making the books look great, and this one seems like it's going to be really fascinating. Grady Hendrix stuff is always amazing. I mean, I feel like a lot of paperbacks from hell probably ended up influencing this book, and definitely one that you should be looking out for when it comes out in September. I have a feeling it'll just be a really great read. Grady is just, great guy. I mean, here's a guy who wears all white suits with pink ties. So, he's got a sense of humor. He's funny. He knows horror, and he's a good guy. Another book they have coming out. Another book from Quirk. I believe may have actually just come out. I'm going to double check that for you. Side note, while I'm doing the lookout, the writer, Fred Van Lently, had previously written Ted Dead Comedians, and he's also done, stuff for Marvel and DC, and self-published his own stuff. And this book actually has illustrations in it from Tom Fowler as well, it seems. So I was not aware of before. He's one of the best comic book artists out there. So that's a big. I didn't even notice that when I was grabbing the arc. So that's a big switch up. And I just noticed that you weren't seeing the cover as I was looking things up, and that I can't spell Quirk Books sometimes. Sometimes I type too fast. I do not spell it. I'm just double checking the date of this for you all. So this is actually not coming out till July. These are finished copies, obviously, but they're not completely finished, as some of the art definitely looks like it may be going through some changes. So this is still an arc, essentially. It's for everyone on these great stuff is great. Oh, side note was so I went to college with his sister. She creates great puppet shows. She was actually in a show, I believe, with me and David. So yeah. So worlds are small sometimes, and they're always fun and they're interesting. For Van Lantley draws and writes some really funny stuff. This one happens to be taking place at San Diego Comic-Con, where somebody gets killed, and it goes from there. And I think anyone would enjoy this. So this is July. Comic, murder comics at a comic convention with everything else along the way, and great art from Tom Fowler. July. September, We Sold Our Souls, heavy metal, satanic, horror, comedy. Quirk. They're always outdoing themselves. Gonna quickly show off some things that I knew about at the show or just discovered at the show that just sounded interesting with some quick information. Seven Deaths of Heaven Hardcastle is it just sounded pretty interesting. It's about a girl who she has 8 days to find out. She was killed, and a guy has to find out who killed her. He has 8 days and 8 people to check out, and he has to go up in their bodies and find out what happened. So it's a different kind of book from Source Books, coming out in September. Could be a really interesting read. The Kidimi, a novel from Bison Books, which is a division of one of the of University of Nebraska Press. This just sounded pretty funny. It's a western about Billy the Kid and a dude's adventure with Billy the Kid back in the late 1800s. So just caught my eye while I was looking at books on the floor and wanted to check it out. People Kill People. I know nothing about this book, but it's about gun violence. And it's about a gun and a death and politics. I'm sure it's one of those powerful books it's got poetry. It's Ellen Hopkins, and it comes out in September. And it's teen fiction. It's probably one of those more powerful books that you need to read in today's environment. So that's Ellen Hopkins, People Kill People. This was on the floor, Exile. It was being promoted as a space drama. I'm not familiar with the author. I'm not familiar with anything, but they had a cool model, and they were handing out copies, really trying to get them into the hands of readers of all ages, of all types, booksellers, fans. I think they really just want to get the book out there and promoted. It comes out in July, and I think they're trying to really build the readership and build the fan base. So I'll be looking at it, checking it out, and Could be a hidden greatest book of the show, or it could be worse. Who knows? I've been reading everything from the Billy Boyle since it started. James R. Ben. I missed the signing this year, but I was able to grab a copy. So it's another Billy Boyle. They're really great mysteries. They take place during the World War, during the war. And they're just really, they're Billy Boyle World War stories. They're always really great. James R. Ben's a great writer. This one's scheduled for September. If you've never read a Billy Boyle World War II storm mystery, just go look out for them. They're from Soho Press, and I've been enjoying them since they first came out, and will continue to enjoy them as they come out. James R. Ben is great. So here is this is essentially the star of the entire show in many ways. This was considered the star of the entire convention. And Dear Evan Hansen, the novel, written by Vale Emmett, associated with Stephen Levittson, Ben Patrick, and Justin Paul, guys who created the actual Broadway show. There's a big publicity campaign for this. Hashtag is DAH novel. There is a website, Dear Evan Hansen novel. Val himself is a writer and an actor. So, he previously wrote the reminders, and Levinson wrote a bunch of plays. So this is a big, huge book of the show, a big, huge book of the year. It was a line that went fast, so you got your signature. You got to say, "Hey guys, looking forward to it," and then you got your book because they're really excited about the book. And hopefully the book itself is as good as the show. Has a lot to live up to, as you may know. But they believe in it, and hopefully they're right. And I'll let you know. But be aware, it is out there, and it'll be coming soon. It is scheduled to come out in October. They're putting it at ages 14 and up, and starting out as a hardcover. Of course, there will be an audio CD as well. No idea who might end up reading that. Could be Val Emmett. He's a pretty good actor. Maybe it'll actually have original songs in the audio CD by Penn and Paul as well. Who knows? But this is a book of the show, and I'm glad I was able to get my hands on it, even if it meant a long line. Just so I can get a signed copy with a commemorative ticket and a quick photo. Which I'm not sure if I actually pulled up the photo. Here's the quick photo that I was able to pull up. I was able to get 2 photos actually. They weren't doing post photos. They wouldn't take photos with you, but was able to get these. I got myself a button and was able to get those. So yeah. Sally Field was easier and more fun to take a photo with than this group, but her book was not considered as big as of the show. It's considered smaller. This was the book of the show. This is what kind of a really big deal of the show. We have another Quirk book. It's a little different, especially for Quirk or just for anyone. Period. It's Rachel Aaron has written a lot of top fantasy books. Has now written a young adults novel based in Attack of Titans. It's coming out in August. I don't think you need to know Attack of Titans to enjoy this. You can, but if you do, you'll probably enjoy it more. It's taking place during early Attack of Titans, so you can probably leap into this and appreciate and enjoy it as a YA novel with or without knowing Attack on Titan. But know it's in that world, and if you know anything about Attack on Titan, it'll be something a little different. They were doing a signing of final copies of the most recent book that just came out, the debut fiction release, mainstream fiction release from Charles Soule, the notable comic books writer from Harper Perennial. This book is out in stores now. It's supposed to be amazing. This cover could maybe hypnotize you if it wanted to. Just stare into the eye. Buy the book. Buy the book. But seriously, buy the book. It's designed really well. Charles Soule is an amazing writer. I have known him since around 2014 when he first broke in 4 years ago. Quickly rose to the top of comics. He was actually self-publishing some novels back then, which I believe I have on my shelf somewhere. I'm not positive on that. But he quickly rose from indies to being a top guy at Marvel, you know, and at Image, and, you know, writing things like Daredevil and various other books. But there's his first big official, you know, novel, and quotes in the back from other notable comic book writers slash novelists who people are, you know, really into. Brad Meltzer, Scott Snyder, Chuck Wendig. So check it out in stores now. We're almost done here. I promise. I'm sorry this is such a long thing, but I really did get a lot of books, as you can see. Speaking of Brad Meltzer, this is The First Conspiracy. It comes out in January. It's going to be big. This is literally the official sequel to both Decoded and Lost History, combining parts of both of those, you know, combining the history of, you know, America, the lost history of America, with, you know, the conspiracies of America, to explore an assassination plot that was done on George Washington, which kind of led to the CIA coming to be. Co-written with the showrunner for Lost History. I started reading it. It's pretty interesting, pretty fascinating, and I feel like it could be a big thing. I think they think it's going to be pretty big too. People are going to be really excited for it. It could lead to a movie or another TV series, I feel. This came out this is a new printing of a book that came out, I believe, originally. This printing came out in 2014. You know, it came out long before that. It's PJ Wodehouse. You know, it was a giveaway, so I thought I'd grab it. It's just for fun. PJ Wodehouse is really great. Some Grey Wolf Press, being promoted by Pen America. It's a collection of poetry. It's already out. Luigi is a poet who was under house arrest. Her husband was in prison. So you know, it's the first time it was in Chinese and American, and it could be really it's a really fascinating collection of poems from writer in a very interesting state with information on the history of her life and everything. Another poetry book is a Jose Olivares. This is his debut collection of poetry. He also works on the Poetry Gods. I believe I've heard him before. I'm familiar with the name. The cover, as you can see, is amazing. It's a collection. He's a Mexican-American poet, so he focuses on, you know, a lot of issues that are pertinent to the time. And one more poetry book. I was walking the floor, saw the various poets signing, and one particular poet caught my eye. But not because he's a poet, but because he happens to be a former professional wrestler. And I was like, that can't be him. But then I looked at the list of people signing, and it listed his name. So he's writing under his real name, which was also his wrestling name. You may or may not be familiar with him. You'd have to be a really hardcore indie wrestling fan who really followed everything, which is something I do. I follow everything. That's why I got titled the Ambassador of Independent Wrestling. Never gave myself that title. Took six different people, wrestlers and promoters alike, to call me that before I decided. And then fans also were like, yeah, we agree with that concept. That's who you are. So I saw Cyrus Parker sitting there. Maybe you'll recognize him. That's Cyrus Parker. He was one half of the Parker brothers. 7 years ago, he retired. This year, he's making his comeback, surprisingly. But he became a writer and a poet in that time. He has 2 books out right now. The first book is Dropkick Romance. That was not on the out at the show because that is already out. But this other book was out on the show in advanced reading copies. It's called Disconnected from Central Avenue Publishing with a release date of October. And it's a collection of poems from Cyrus. But as you can see, it also has a lot of other great writers on it. Sarah Bond, Nikita Gill, Amanda Lovelace, his wife, who is a great poet herself, William Ryan, R.H. Cheney. It's a great collection of poetry. I'm really glad I caught this while I was on the floor and will really enjoy reading this. You should check it out yourself when it comes out. It's a collection of poems and poetry and prose and various, different, got illustration. It's a collection of great stories of just various ideas from Central Avenue Publishing, October. This was another random pickup on the floor. It's called Ambrose Parry. It was a Wednesday pickup. If you like the Alienist, it's in the vein of that. It's during the same time kind of period, focusing more on anesthesia at the time, but leading into mystery. So it's there is no such person as Ambrose Parry. It's the combination name of the writer and his wife, who is an anesthesiologist with a history, and so it's a combination of studying mysteries and somehow expanding beyond how anesthesia. I'm not really completely sure how. Maybe it'll be. I guess it'll be like. God, I'm trying to remember that. There was that murder mystery book, that murder mystery television series, but the guy was a doctor who just somehow kept falling into murder mystery. So I'm thinking it's like that, but combined with the Alienist. So of the time period of the Alienist, that Victorian setting, but a doctor who falls into murder mysteries. And it's already being optioned, so it's already been optioned for a TV series. Almost through, people. Promise. I know it feels like I've said that already, but it's just consumed. Picked this up because a firefighter was handing it out. J.R. Ward. Never really read J.R. Ward before, but a firefighter was on the floor handing this out. It's its own standalone novel. It's comparing itself to Chicago Fire. So it comes out in October. It's about firefighters. I can't, it's up my alley in some way, I'm sure. This is first book of prose by Amber Tamlyn. You may be familiar with her as an actress, maybe as a writer. She's a great poet. Very popular actress, of course, as I stated. Emmy nominated, Golden Globe nominated. This comes out very shortly in June, so later in this month. And I've known Amber for quite a while. I used to host a poetry slam, and she's worked on it. And I bumped into her in the city. She didn't recognize me, but it's okay. She's been going through a lot of interesting things lately, including things with her husband, who I've bumped into on the street and seen perform. So this is a book that focuses a bit on a lot of things that she's been dealing with and expressing lately by switching it up and making this about a serial rapist, but a female serial rapist, to explore and expose things more, just to make things that it's not just about it's about something more, and that she's about something more. So it definitely still has poetry, she stated, which I'm not surprised by, and some forms of playwriting and just experimental writing. Not surprised by that for Amber Tamblyn, but it's great to see her again. Her dress was awesome. Not used to seeing her in glasses at all. So used to not seeing her glasses. Not used to her hair being tied up. Almost didn't recognize her even. But it was her. If you're wondering. So this should be definitely, you should check it out. It's her first tackle at a full on prose novel, although still not being fully prose. About a serial rapist, but a female one. Could be really interesting. Hope Never Dies. It's another Quirk book. It's by Andrew Schaefer, who you may be aware of, but this is it. Just look at the cover. That's all you need to know. It's an action adventure taking place after the election, where Joe Biden is bored, and a mystery happens, and Joe and Obama got to team up to solve the mystery. That's right. It's literally a road trip mystery action adventure taking place after the 2016 election about Obama and Joe Biden. How can you not want to read this? I don't know how you can't think of this. No matter who you are, no matter what your politics are, you have to want to read this. There's no reason to not want to read this. I can't think of one particular reason, unless you just don't like reading. But like the other book that I mentioned, Con Artist, this also comes out on July 10th, and I feel like it's gonna fly off the shelves. Cover alone, but just the whole idea. The president, the vice president, they lost the election. They're bored. Let's go solve mysteries. On top of giving out the conspiracy book, they were also giving out copies of the most recent Brad Meltzer book, which is currently already in stores, The Escape Artist. Just regular, Brad Meltzer awesomeness, female protagonist trying to, solve mysteries, stop the bad guys. It's what he's known for. So go check this out. It's Grand Central, Hachette, as usual for Meltzer, and just came out. So go check it. So the next three books are from a publisher called Rare Bird. And this is the next book coming out. Keith Buckley, you may know as the lead singer of the band Every Time I Die. This one comes out in September 2018, but I was not even aware, so you may not be aware that he has written books and that he's been published as a writer. So you may want to go out, look out for the book already out called Scale, also by Keith Buckley, also from Rare Bird, currently in stores. So look out for that. And then in September, keep your eyes out for the follow-up, Watch. You know, it writes the way he sings and the way he writes lyrics, just in prose format, you know. Slightly autobiographical because that's just how he is. And so it's just, imagine, you know, a great rock lyricist deciding to write prose. That's that. Rare Bird is also publishing this lost novel of Frank Capra, you know, the director, Frank Capra. And this is also coming out in September, same date as Keith Buckley's book. And it's actually originally written in 1966. So first time ever being in print. Cry Wilderness, Frank Capra's never published before novel. It's a cop novel, actually. It's a mystery cop novel, scandals. It's something, you know, what you'd expect from someone like Frank Capra. So, and if the name Frank Capra doesn't ring a bell, he wrote a Christmas Story. That doesn't ring a bell with you, I don't know what to do for you. Yeah, he wrote other movies, and he's well known for many other things, but if a Christmas Carol, what am I saying? Not a Christmas Story. The greatest Christmas story. Not Christmas Carol. Not the Christmas Story. A Christmas Story. The greatest Christmas story of all time. If you don't know It's a Wonderful Life, then I don't know what to do with you. That's Frank Capra, okay? So you either know who Frank Capra is or you don't. If you do, It's a Wonderful Life. This is a never before published novel from him. September, Rare Bird. Check it out. This is Mammoth. It's from Turner Publishing. Comes out in October. It's about a girl who is a young paleontologist. Gets her dream. And it's also about body image and other things. So, yeah. Also published from Turner. Scheduled for August is the second book in Jonathan Shaw, the noted tattoo artist, second volume in his Craziness of Fiction. So if you've read Scabender, it's great. If you haven't read Scabender, that's fine too. He says that's fine. Hop on here and enjoy it from here. So check that out in August. It's crazy, weird. You know, this is something that Johnny Depp himself has been waiting for years for. So if Johnny Depp wants it, so do you should want it too. I'm just saying. Finally, this is the next Walter Mosley book. This is John Workman from Atlantic Monthly Press. It's from September 4th, part of Grove Atlantic, and it's a mystery, but not a mystery. It's a little something different from Walter Mosley. It's not experimental, but it's different. It's more ideas than full-on idea. It's coming of age, and the guy's name is John Woman. So Walter Mosley. There you go. We're gonna finalize this. Get on to the end of it quick with some children's younger readers kind of stuff. And we'll try to do this as quick as possible to bring this to a close. I will try my fastest. I know this is getting long, 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 and you have probably gone away. But if you did, you missed the song, so hey, bad on you. You don't get to see the entire haul, you don't learn all the books. You might not know that inside this pile is your favorite book that you'll never read 'cause you didn't know it was coming out. 'Cause let me tell you, young adult, I don't leap on it as hardcore as everyone. My young adult is the smallest pile, while it's the biggest pile for many people that go to BookExpo, from booksellers to librarians. My focus is on comics, and as you can see, the nonfiction memoirs. As much adult fiction as I can. And young adult, I'm there a lot less. But I'm there. What I like, if you're anything like me, if I like something, knows, if I want it in young adult, you'll probably want it too. So hopefully you're still here, sticking around on this live, unedited, purposely crazy vlog. Sure, there could have been jump cuts completely. I could have ran around giving you more special effects. But reality, people, reality is great. Real time. I've been sitting here talking to you and then putting this to the world. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. I'm just trying to pull up a photograph for you quick. So, first book, Alex Gino. You don't know everything, Jelly P. His first book, George. It's a beautiful, amazing story about transsexual, realization at a young age. Their second book is a little different. It's more about just a great, exploring differences and acceptance. That's what they're all about. That's what Alex Gino is really about. It's all about discovering yourself. The tagline is, the way the world sees you changes how you see the world. And that's true. But equally, I feel it's the switch over, and I bet the switch over in this book is the way you see yourself changes how the world sees you. And so I think that's going to be a big part of what this is all about, is believe in yourself and the rest will follow. And I've taken one picture before with Alex Gino, with his, opening book. And with when I say his, pronouns are very hard. You want to keep saying they, but I don't know how their. I don't know how to do the pronoun for that. I know that Alex Gino identifies as a they, but I don't know how the proper pronouns work in certain sentences, and I'd love to sit down with someone who knows that. But in the meantime, here's a great photo. I look cute. They look cute. We look cute. So I would definitely really check out this book. September 25th. It's the kind of young adult book that I feel like, I'm always trying to discover myself. A lot of people are. Even though I'm old, I'm still not really sure about who I am and how I want the world to see me, or how I even see myself. Or the way the world sees you changes how you see the world. So I don't even know how the world sees me, but they have seen me in certain ways before. So yeah. Let's go quickly now because I just gave myself some tears. The Haunted Serpent. This is an Abrams book. I believe it was Abrams. Was it Abrams? I'm not even sure who. No, this is Sterling Children's Books. Honestly, this was just where the cover really caught my eye. It's coming out sometime this month. This cover just really caught my eye. Between the title and the cover, just caught my eye. So I grabbed it. Same with this. They were handing it out. The title caught my eye. The Golden Skull caught my eyes. You know, it's hardcore YA epic fantasy. It's part of Abrams' Ambulance books. So it could be really awesome. Couldn't be. I really don't know. It comes out in October. This I actually went to get. I'd seen it before. The cover and the art really caught me, and knowing that it's one of the rare capstone books. It's children. It really is a children's book, but you know, it's a story that, you know, introducing, you know, letting people know to not be afraid of someone like Yasmin, because people are. The writer here is a very, very lovely woman, Sadia Furukwe, and she's you know, she's adorable. She's actually got one of those faces like, she's so cute, and so is Yasmin, and the writer is a real sweetheart. So this is really good for your children. The art by Hatem Ali is amazing. Like, it's so good. You see how good the cover is? Everything inside this see this cover? Everything in the book looks this good. So grab that. That's from Capstone. Comes out in August. Unbelievably Boring Bart. It's a James Patterson, but more importantly, it's a Duane Czarnowski. One of my favorite writers happens to be Duane Czarnowski. Wrote some of my favorite fiction books. This is illustrated throughout, with illustrations by Xavier Bonnet. The Jimmy books are great, so you know, you should check them out. They're always fun. September 3rd. This is a collection of various things, of stuff that's coming out and stuff that is out already. Just a nice chapter novels or Valentino's Disney stuff. So you should look into this. This is a super children's book. It's called, you know, based on the Nocturnal series. You should check it out though. Fabledfilms.com. There are, you know, young adult novels and various levels of all reading for all readers. They're developing it to eventually become a series. They have stuffed animal, they have stuffies and plushies and all that stuff. This is all adorable, signed by the illustrator Josie Yee. So should look into the Nocturnals for sure. This is out already, and there's more Nocturnals coming. This book was actually on my list of something that I definitely wanted to check out. It sounded really interesting. Just, I mean, look at that cover. But it's the Bigfoot Files. Comes out later in this year. It's from Candlewick. I'm not sure of the actual date. It's not printed within the pages, but it's much later in the year. Probably sometime in October or September, I'm guessing. Traditionally with these books. But this cover, and then even just the regular cover is great. It's about a young girl looking for Bigfoot. I mean, no, you can't get simpler than that. This was a scholastic drop-off that caught my eye between the cover, and it's about parents and a girl hiding people in a hotel and making sure that they're not found because they're, you know, immigrants and it's something interesting. So comes out in, it just came out actually. They just had extra arc, so it came out on May 29th. You might want to look it up. This also came out just recently from Scholastic, art for Ava Levine. They had some extra arcs. It's about rock band and battle of the band stuff. So definitely check it out. It comes out in September. It's the latest in Carl Haitian's children's series. Hoot, Flush, Scat, Chomp, Now, Squirm. So he's done an owl, fish, cat, an alligator. Now he's doing a snake. What will Billy do? Carl Haitian is one of my favorite writers, be it his mystery adults in Florida, his nonfiction accounts of Disney, or his crazy children's series. So grab this, man. It's Carl Haitian. It's a Candlewick book that was on the floor. It's got some really great illustrations throughout, just like the cover, so that's why it caught my eye. Scheduled for September. I don't even think this is the completed book. It's just a real sampler to give you an idea for it. It looks really interesting, really cool artwork, and it'll be hardcover and it'll be big. It'll actually be slightly bigger than this, and it's going to be 544 pages, so it's slightly different for a children's book. And yeah, check that out. This is the Last Kids on Earth and the Cosmic Beyond. This is a series that's been coming out from Max Brailer for a while. That always has artwork from Douglas Holgate in it. So now they're going into space. They've been fighting monsters. Now they're going into space, it looks like. And this comes out in September. So second book in Neil Patrick Harris's Magic Mysteries children's series comes out in September. It's the second book in it, second story. Third story is already started, coming prepared to come out too. So get on board some magical mysteries. I mentioned before they've given out a copy of a recent, Isle of the Lost to promote the graphic novel that's coming out. So this is it. Melissa De La Cruz, who also wrote the adaptation of the Isle of the Lost. This came out, I believe, in 2017 originally. It was the third book in the series, so it's Disney. It's Descendants. If you haven't read it, go check it out. That's all the books, but I just thought I'd show off a couple of things quick, other things really quick. Pins. Stickers. And one more thing, because I had to be very careful and strategic and sharky. And what sharky means is, a shark swims underneath. You don't see him when before he comes. He swims, dun 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 dun. It's not like in the movies, you see the fin before it pops up. No, you don't see the shark. You don't see the shark before it finally does an attack. Out of nowhere, you think everything's okay. You think you're safe, and then pop! Here's the shark. So I had the shark a little. I get myself this little thing right here, but it was worth it because it's the cutest little thing in the world. If you know your shadow hunters, either be it the books, the Cassandra Clare books, or the movie, or the TV series on Sci-Fi, you will know Magnus Bane. And here he is. Hi, people. How you doing? I'm Magnus Bane. And this is me telling you, we are signing off. Hope you like this live unedited vlog. Woo!